Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to today's author webinar. And thank you for joining us. I'm Anita, and I'm part of the Learning and Content Management team. Joining me from the Learning and Content Management team are my colleagues Radhika, Jennifer, and Sridevi. And before we begin, a few housekeeping items. Firstly, please take a few moments to complete the poll you will see now on your screens. And if you have a question at any time during the content of the session, please use the Q&A option to send your questions directly to us, and the team will be on hand to answer your questions during the session. We'll also cover some of the questions at the end of the session today. And for the best answers, we will request you to use the Q&A option to type your questions. And you may also wish to enable the linear, via the bar on the bottom of your screen. Finally, our session is being recorded today, and you will be sent a link when the recording is ready. Now let's take a look at the agenda for today. So we will start by giving you an overview of the author submission process in Editorial Manager. Please note the steps may vary depending on journal configuration and the type of article being submitted. We'll also have a look at how to use the declaration tool when submitting a manuscript. And Elsevier's declaration tool quickly and easily helps authors create a comprehensive statement which incorporates the ICMJE, in other words, it's International Committee of Medical Journal Editors Declaration Standards. And this declaration tool will produce a statement in a Word document for you so that it can be uploaded alongside your manuscript, and it will also appear in your published article. Finally, we'll provide a brief explanation of various editorial statuses your submission may progress through in Editorial Manager. Now let's get into the Editorial Manager test site, and we're going to explore the author submission process together. Please be using our training site for the demonstration purpose with all dummy users and dummy submissions. So the training site replica of the live environment, but it will look slightly different to your own profile. So please don't worry if you don't see things today that you normally see when you log into your profile. And this might be really because of the rights and permissions which is provided for each role that may vary from journal to journal. Now I'm just going to flip over my screen to Editorial Manager. And Jenny, I hope you're all able to see my Editorial Manager screen.
Yes, Anita.
Thank you very much for confirming, Jenny. Yeah. So before submitting a manuscript, please check the journal requirements via the instructions to author link. These instructions will contain guidelines on manuscript word counts, file requirements, and other important information for your submission. And so it is really important for you to familiarize yourself with the journal. And once you're ready to begin the submission process for your paper, please click on the Submit New Manuscript button. And you will be ending up in this screen where you might see there are a few submissions that has been already initiated by different authors. So you can just ignore, come to the end of the screen and click on Start New Manuscript if you're submitting manuscript for the first time to this journal. And in case if you have already initiated the submission, you can also just continue with that by clicking on Select and Continue. And now I have already created a test submission for the purpose of this author webinar. So I'm just going to click on that and proceed. And please now select the relevant article type from the drop-down menu. If you're submitting to a special issue, please ensure you select the relevant article type from the drop-down. And few journal may request you to link your record to the ORCID record. Once you're done, click on Proceed. And please attach all the files you wish to include with your submission in the Attach File step here. So you may use the Browse option to access your computer's file list, or you can even drag and drop a file from your computer to attach the primary file for the submission. First, Please upload your primary manuscript file. Mandatory file types are indicated here in the dropdown with an asterisk. If you select research data when available for your journal, you will be asked, you'll be asked to enter the URL where your data is hosted. And you will also be able to provide some additional information such as repository name and title of the data set. And in future, it will also become possible for you to upload data directly into Mendeley data using this option. Please ensure the appropriate file type is selected from the dropdown once you have uploaded all your files. You may edit the description of the item, but please ensure not to use any personal identifiers. And the system will automatically order your files into the order designated by the journal. For some journals, the declaration of interest, if you see here, is a mandatory file type. We'll explain this in more detail in a few minutes, but in either event, such as a statement is mandatory from an ethics perspective. We also have a short video on using the declaration tool in Editorial Manager, and the link will be now posted in the chat window for you all. So please click on it and save it to your favorites so you can refer it later. And once all your files are uploaded, click on Proceed. And the general information step will have different requirements depending on your journal. You may be asked to select a region of origin, section category, and classifications related to your submission. Classifications are fixed terms created for the journal. So these are basically different from keywords. Keywords are free text that users can add in the manuscript data file here. Once you've provided all the required information in this step, you can click on Proceed. And depending on the journal's requirements, you will see different options on the reviewer preferences step. You may be having the option to request an editor to handle your paper, to suggest potential reviewers for your submission, or oppose reviewers who would prefer not to review, whom you would prefer not to review your submission. So, but please note, these are preferences only. The editor may or may not use the suggestions. And once you've provided all the required information or the necessary information, click on Proceed. And now we are in the additional information step. And this step presents you with a questionnaire which the journal uses to collect useful information. So please respond to all these questions as appropriate. When you've answered all the questions, click on Proceed. And the comment section gives you an opportunity to enter any additional comments for the journal office, but these comments will not appear directly in your submission. So once you've provided the additional comments for your paper, click on Proceed. So now if you see, the system may automatically pull some data from the manuscript file attached to pre-populate on the manuscript data step. And the required fields are marked with a red asterisk. So you must check and verify the data or enter data manually. Please enter the keywords when you're done with the filling the abstract part. And once you're done with keywords, it is necessary for you to enter all the authors of the submission, including their name, current email address and institution. You might also select their contributor roles if applicable. Just hang on with me. The system is a little slow. I just wanted to show you the step here. Yeah. So as you can see here, you can fill in your name. The name of all the co-authors, email address, and the contributor roles as necessary. Once you're done, click on Save. So the co-authors may receive an email notification from the journal. You may reorder the author list by dragging and dropping the author to the correct position in the list. When all the author details are entered, you can click on Next. And the next thing is going to be the funding information. So please add the funding information for your research. And if you have any additional funding resource, you can also click on Add a funding resource source and fill in the funding information. If you would like to submit and save, save and submit later, you can use this button of Save and Submit Later. If not, you can click on Build PDF for approval. So the system is taking some time to build the PDF. Just give me a second. So now if you see here, we are in the submissions waiting for approval by author folder. And the paper is now ready. So the PDF of your submission is now built. Click on View Submission to access the PDF. Give me a second. And you must view the PDF to confirm that your files and information are correct. If changes are required, you can use the Edit Submission button and edit this submission. Please ensure you read the Ethics in Publishing and Elsevier's terms and conditions and click on I accept button to indicate that you had adhered to these guidelines. And finally, okay, the system is refreshing again and again, I'm sorry. And finally, when you're done with everything, approving your submission, click on Approve Submission. And once you're sure you want to approve this, click on OK. So now let's just wait for the system to pop up the message. So now if you see your submission is submitted to the journal for consideration, and you will receive an email confirmation shortly. So in this part of today's webinar, we're now going to return to the submission process and look at the declaration tool in more detail. For that, I'm just going to go back to the main menu. I'm just clicking on Start a New Manuscript. So as we mentioned before, for some journals, the declaration tool, uploading of the declaration of interest is a mandatory file type. Transparent disclosure of potential competing interest is essential to meeting your ethical obligations and nurturing trust in science. Elsevier now offers a declaration tool in Editorial Manager that quickly and easily helps authors create a comprehensive statement which incorporates the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, or ICMJE declaration standards. This statement can be uploaded as a Word document alongside your manuscript and will appear in your published article. So the declaration tool can be accessed through the journal's instruction for authors link, as well as from the attach file step here, if you could see. So please click on the declaration tool link. And you will now be taken to the declaration tool homepage. Here you can read further information about declaring your interest, and when ready, you can begin your declaration. Please note that for some reasons, for some journals, I have nothing to declare button may be press send and should obviously only be used to directly generate a statement when you're confident you and your co-authors have nothing to declare. For other journals where this button is not available, you can indicate that you have nothing to declare in each page, as we'll see now and shortly. So when you're ready to begin, just go to the end of the screen and start your declaration. Okay, so we are now on the first page, research support for this reported work. So you can declare any support you or your co-authors received from certain types of third parties since the initial conception of this research. But please note, you don't need to list academic institutions or public funding sources from charitable foundations or government agencies here. You may fill in the details of the support by typing the organization name here. And selecting any financial support or non-financial support. If you need to add another funding source, you can just go to the end of the screen and click on Add Another Funding Source and fill in the details. You will also need to add who received this support. So if your research did not receive any additional support that should be declared, you may just go up to the top of the screen and you can use this toggle button off. If you'd like to save the declaration for later and come back to it within the next 30 days to continue, you can use this button. So once you've finished filling this first step, you can click on the next button, which is the Other Support. So under this step, relevant support outside this reported work, you should be disclosing if you or any of your co-authors have any financial interest or personal relationship to the subject matter, but not directly to the manuscript. So the time frame for other support is within the last 3 years. Again, fill in all the necessary and relevant fields here, or you can use the toggle button off if you have nothing to declare or disclose. So now let's click the intellectual property button to proceed. So the patents and intellectual property page allows you to disclose any relevant patents or copyrights licensed to you or any of your co-authors. So you can fill in all these details, and if you would like to add another patent, you can also click on this Add Another Patent and add the details. And once you've filled all these, or press the toggle off button to indicate if you have nothing to declare, click on the Next Other Activities button. And if you see here, Other Activities is the final page of the declaration tool, where you can submit any further information that a reader could perceive to have influenced the work that has not been covered in the previous pages. So once you've either filled this or you've toggled off to indicate you have nothing to declare, just come down to the end of the screen and click on Review Declaration. So this screen basically summarizes all the information you have provided. And you can just go down, click on Back button if there is anything you want to edit, or click on Submit and Download if you're happy with the content. So you will be offered the option to enter your email address to save your declaration statement. So you will receive the same prompt if you wish to save your progress at any time while using this tool. So if you do this, you'll be prompted to enter a one-time password here, and you can then download your declaration. You can also go back to this tool and download the declaration again for the next 30 days if you use this option. Alternatively, you can also click on No thanks, I want to download a declaration without saving it. So now if you see, the declaration tool has created a document using the information entered, which can be now uploaded to the Editorial Manager as a Word document. So I'm just going back to the attach file step here, and the file here which you downloaded can be just uploaded to your submission by clicking on Browse button. And then just please make sure you select the relevant item here from your declaration of interest. So you may then continue with your submission and proceed further. If you saved your declaration, you can also access it from the home screen of the declaration tool here for up to 30 days by clicking on Access with One-Time Password. So if you want more information about this step, please watch our video using the declaration tool in Editorial Manager. And I hope you have already received the link in the chat section. So this is how you use the declaration tool in Editorial Manager. And in the last part of this webinar, we'll give you a brief explanation of the various editorial statuses your submission may progress through in Editorial Manager. For that, I'm going to just flip over my screen again to Editorial Manager. Jenny, I hope my screen is all okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's see, how do you track your submission in Editorial Manager? An author finishes writing his paper and submits it to the journal. The system shows the status of the manuscript as manuscript submitted. Based on the workflow of the journal, the editorial office or editor performs a technical check on your manuscript. The next step is assigning it either to the editor-in-chief or a subordinate editor for further handling. Journals usually have multiple associate editors who are experts in a particular niche within the broader subject area. So your manuscript will be handled by the editor who has the highest level of understanding and experience with your paper's research topic. The third step is an editorial office person checks the manuscript on the word count, manuscript format, figure quality, etc., and assigns it to the editor-in-chief for further handling. The status remains with editor until the editor invites reviewers. So now the handling editor has different action choice: make a desk rejection, send paper for revision, and scope. And if your paper is a better match for another journal, you may be offered a manuscript transfer. Also, it's possible that your paper does not meet some of the assessment criteria. Jenny, I hope my audio is clear. I just see there is my internet is unstable, but just confirming here.
Yeah, now it's clear, Anita.
Okay, great. Yeah. So as I was mentioning, it's also possible that your paper does not meet some of the assessment criteria, and then the editor will reject it before going to peer review. If the editor decides that your paper is a good match for the journal, they will identify 2 or 3 independent reviewers, but it's purely depending on the journal configuration, and then send them an invitation to review your manuscript. So when the editor invites reviewers, the statuses of the manuscript changes to under review. Once the required number of reviews are received and recommendations were submitted, the statuses of the manuscript shows as required reviews completed. So the handling editor now carefully studies the review reports. It can happen that the referee reports are conflicting, in which case the editor needs to find some more additional reviewers. And when this happens, your submission returns to under review status. When the editor has received enough of high quality feedback from the reviewers, they'll begin the decision-making process and move the status to the decision in process. So the decision may need to be confirmed by multiple editors in few journals. So the manuscript then moves to the editor-in-chief account. You will find the details of the changes required and the deadline for your revision in the decision letter. Decision. In case of an accept decision, the manuscript will begin its production process and you will receive further information. The next one is transfer pending. So the editor has rejected your paper and suggested to transfer. The editor has recommended the submission be transferred to another journal via our automatic article transfer service, and you're offered a transfer. So we'll wait your response before proceeding. The next one is submission transferred. So you accepted the transfer and the submission is now transferred to another journal. So I think, yeah, we are coming to the end of our webinar today. So thank you for listening to the content of today's session. And I hope you found it useful. We are now going to spend a few moments looking at some of the questions, frequently raised questions raised in today's session. And for that, I'll hand it over to Jenny. Jenny, over to you.
Okay. And we did have an open question on, will self-plagiarism also be considered for previously published overlapping? Now, with regards to this particular question, now we do have two types of tools in Editorial Manager. One is the plagiarism check, which most of the journals will have, and we also have something called the duplicate tool. Now, the duplicate tool is something which will analyze duplicates which the author has done. If in case, for example, if the author submitted the contents of the same paper previously, but then the editor is not aware of it, then the duplicate tool will show up a percentage there stating that the author has already given these details in the previously published paper. So it will be like a warning sign to the editor to check on those details and then proceed with the next step of the editorial process. So if your question is something with regards to that particular aspect, yeah, there are cases where we do have the duplicate tool in Editorial Manager, which will alert editors that if there are any contents which has been published previously, then yeah, it is going to alert. But then apart from the references, or if you have any linked references to the previously published article, that's completely fine, because we will have a plagiarism tool which will state that these references are being put up there, but then the editor will make sure to go ahead and check what are those contents before even sending you out edition on the particular paper. So that's completely fine. The next one is about generally how long does it take under review. Now, as Sri has responded to that, it completely depends upon the journal, because it also depends upon the copy flow of the journal. The review process might get even completed within a month or so. So you will have to check on your status of the paper with the journal manager or with the researcher support team, whoever is available for you, to check on the status of your paper. But then it's something journal specific there. So then, yeah, and we also have a couple of questions coming up there on the chat, on the Q&A field. So thank you so much. So we also have something like, in that case, what is the maximum percentage allowed, which is, I guess, regards to the plagiarism. Now, Plagiarism percentage is also very journal specific. Now that is something which will be discussed among the editors for each and every journal. So as far as we understand from our end as such, probably default would be, I'm not very sure on that, but the default can be like 20 or less than 20%. But then again, it's very journal specific as well. So to answer your questions on that, yeah, 20 or less than is fine, I guess. But then we do have certain journals or editors who will decide on that particular aspect. So, yep, pretty much that's it. And I think we also have some of the questions which is being answered by our team there. So there's one more question there. How can I check the submission details during the under review status, such as how many reviewers have been invited and who have completed review? Yeah, so to answer your questions on that, you will have to send a status update to the researcher support team, or you can also write an email to the journal mailbox asking them what is the status of the paper when it is under review, because either the journal manager or the support agent, whoever is in charge, whom you have contacted, will be in the best position to just check and let you know how many reviewers have been invited and how many reviews have been completed for your paper. So that will also give you an idea that how fast you will get your decision on the paper as well. So you will not be able to check it from your end. So you will have to write to the journal manager or to the researcher support team there. Yes. Okay, there's also a question on, I have submitted a paper which got rejected because it doesn't come under the journal scope. Okay, can I submit it to another journal with revising it? Yeah, possibly, because if it is something which is something out of scope for the current journal, then you will have to look into the scope of the journal which it fits in, and you can go ahead and try submitting it. That is always okay, because it has already been said as out of scope in the additional letter. So I think it should be okay. But then if at all it's worth it that you just put it across in the submission that you did submit it in the previous journal, and it has been put up as out of scope, and so that will just keep the new editor-in-chief informed that okay, you have already submitted it, and just because it's out of scope, it's been put up there. Yeah, okay. Now I'm just going to stop with this, and we will have our team answering to the rest of this. So over to you, Anita, there.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jenny. That was definitely useful. So yes, so that brings us to our end of our webinar today. And thank you for listening. After the session, we'll send you an email that will contain some helpful links to the webinar recording and also the short video guides that relate directly to the topic today. So please have a look out for that email. And please take a few moments to complete the short survey that will appear on your screen when the session finishes. So your answers will help us deliver more webinars like this. And thank you for joining us. See you later.